Oh, Dave.
Oh, John.
Dave,
I'm
ask me
feeling a
what
little
I've
bit left out. Can someone do a Tom?
Tom.
Ask me what I've been doing.
What have you been doing?
Not much.
Cue the music.
The Failing Writers podcast
is the
greatest
podcast
the world
has
ever
known.
John,
Tom, and
Dave are amazing.
certainly the most
Professional
outfit I've
ever
heard of. Cows.
Seriously though, have you actually been doing anything, John? Have you been writing anything?
Well, actually, do you know what?
What?
Yeah, we've had another go at the log line.
Oh yeah, we've been
Me-
knocking that backwards and forwards, haven't
Yeah,
we? I think
me
we've
and
got
you,
some-
Tommy, we've been tennising the
I think
the
we've
log line.
done some good work on that. Actually.
But also, following Evan's advice, I had a little go at trying to write out the beats
Oh,
just for episode 1 of
Oh, right,
Poker
okay.
Night. But I almost immediately spotted a problem with
not
that
a
strategy,
problem.
which is, how do you do that when you don't really know the characters that well? Like, when a show already exists, do you know what I mean? It's fair enough. You know how each character will respond in any given exchange. But when you've never sort of really thought about, well, I don't mean not thought about, because we have thought about the characters, but you've never really heard them speak in your
Yeah.
head, what do you do then? Do you know what I mean?
You write forward.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it made me realise that this is one of the perennial issues with plotting, isn't it? And we've talked about this before, but it's a total chicken and egg. It's like you need the plot in order to start planning out what the characters do, but in order to understand the characters in the first place, so that you can drive the plot forwards convincingly, you actually need to immerse yourself in the characters. You need to hear their voices. Do you know what I mean? And just sort of experience them.
It's almost as if there isn't a really quick and easy way to do it, isn't it?
That's the problem.
I would say two things to that, John. One, I think that's on the first draft and going through. That's when they're almost allowed to be quite two-dimensional.
Yeah.
Do you mean the very simple characters, and that's how they react, and then you can polish it up.
They've got very simple wants and needs. I think that's
and
exactly
then you can
it.
polish it up and put the subtlety in later.
Yeah. But it made me realise. Well, I started to think about Gillian McAllister's model of writing the entire thing once and then
Putting it in
binning
the
it and
bin.
starting again.
Yeah.
That's actually quite a good strategy.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, true.
effectively that's what you've got to do, isn't it? You write some beats,
Yeah.
then you write the actual thing, then you go, that's not right, and then you go back and then rewrite it. And there's no other real, way of doing it. And people will tell you, you've got to do it this way because it will speed things up for you. That might be true, but you still can't speed it up to the point of doing it in any way quickly.
You've still got to do it. You've just still got to do it, haven't you? That's the
You
problem.
just got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that was my little epiphany for the day. Is that
I was going to say, unless number 2 idea, why don't you take the characters, John, and put them through some stupid online personality quiz? Maybe that would help you.
that'll slow me down even more.
Oh, we
Give
don't
you
need
more
that,
things to do,
we?
yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So
So a good bit
yeah.
of tinkering with Poker Night.
Well-
I'm glad to see that someone else is feeling the impending deadline of Damocles.
It's getting
above
close, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave.
Hey, I've got a little.
Still,
sorry.
John's still speaking.
Go on. You carry
No,
on.
go on. I was going to ask Dave what he's writing.
Yeah,
What
go on,
is
John.
it?
Carry on,
Let's
John.
do that
No,
first.
carry on,
Let's do
John.
that. He doesn't want to be asked.
Dave, what have you been writing?
Well,
Sorry, let me rephrase the question. Dave, have you been writing anything?
no,
Right, fair enough.
is the short answer. Do you know what? I can't believe it's a week since the last time you asked me that question.
Yeah, well,
I think, what's happened?
yeah. Sometimes it is like that, isn't it? Where you just think, well, not even.
Just, I don't know
Yeah.
where it's gone. I think I might have mentioned this before, but I used to work with a guy who would say an awful lot of really silly things, and then every now and then he'd come out with an absolute pearler, and you'd think, "Oh, that's real insight." And we were talking about how life seems to go faster as you sort of get older, and he said, "Well, see, the thing is, if you think about it, right, when you're 4, a year is like a quarter of your life. But when you're 40, it's nowhere near that, is it? It's just a little drop in the ocean. It's
So
like
he couldn't work out the percentages on the Hoover?
No, because we were sort of 22 at the time, which made it an even harder sum. But yeah, it's just like I don't know where time is going as I'm getting older. It's just flying by.
Yeah.
So that's a
Which
roundabout
makes it-
way of saying I haven't written anything.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. Tom?
Obviously, I've been working on the poker night stuff a little bit with you, I guess. And I've started writing another little short story. I was saying about the Globe suit.
Another one?
Another one? I got an email from them. They're doing it's like a 7-day challenge. I was just thinking actually before, don't know how many days into the 7-day challenge we are. I might need to check.
Probably already 7, yeah.
So that, which is interesting. And I nearly just didn't bother doing it because it sounded a bit too hard. So, like when we did the 250-word ones with the idiot judges and stuff, and it gave you a genre to write in. So this does the same. So it gives you an overall subject, which is family. So that's the same. Whatever genre you get is family as the subject. But the genre I got was surrealist. And I thought, bollocks to that. That's ridiculous, isn't it?
I bet you quite enjoyed that.
Then I thought, actually, come on, we should, just have a little play around with that. It might be fun. So.
And how many days were you into the challenge?
I don't know.
You said it was a 7-day challenge.
Yeah, no, I don't know when it started. I can't remember when I got the email.
Oh, is it? Okay. You're still not
So
sure.
I started writing something a couple of days ago, but I don't know if that was like, when you get an email and you think, oh, yeah, I'll get around to that. And it's just kind of just slowly sinks down your inbox into the bit where you don't really see it anymore. So if that's still on, I'll still work on that.
That's good. And how many words?
2,000.
Because
That's a lot of words.
2,000. That's quite nice for a short story, that though, isn't it? It gives you a bit more getting up and down.
2,000 words.
I did feel that with the ones we've been getting in for our competition, that some of them, it's amazing. I thought looking through lots of them, and we've not got through all of them yet because we have got quite a lot, but some of them seem like packed into the word count. Like you can tell it's just like they wanted another 250 words. And it's kind of like they've pared them down and they come in, it's got 499 words. Do you know what I mean? It's like really on the limit. And then you get some where they've told the story in like less than 200 words. But there's nothing else to add. Yeah. It's just, it's interesting. But 2,000 gives you a bit of a, there's no excuse really, is there? There's nothing to hide behind of, oh, well, I didn't really know.
That's true. It's a proper story, that, isn't it?
There's,
not that these aren't, but
no,
these are like moments, aren't they?
Thing,
yeah. Wow, it's its own challenge then, isn't it? Because if you want to make it good, you've still got to be brutal about taking out stuff that doesn't need to be there. But you've got that leeway that says, well, I could just leave that in, couldn't I?
After getting quite used to sort of writing around the 500-word mark.
Yeah.
I did find myself when I started writing Britain, I thought, this is coming. It's quite a good idea. It's flowing. I got about 400 or 500 words. And then I did kind of get a little flashback to writing essays at university where you had to hit a word count.
Yeah. Let's
expand. Oh, no, I think I've said everything. Right. Let's flower this up a bit. Let's get some extra words in there.
Yeah. We're back to the no again, aren't we?
Yeah.
Do you think you're finding your thing, Tom?
Well, I mean, I haven't found it yet. I'm still looking, but
but you obviously enjoy writing. You're writing another one.
Yeah,
that's a good sign that you enjoy writing short stories.
Do you know? I think, entirely the reason for starting this podcast, and it was my brilliant idea in the first place, wasn't it? But I think that came from somewhere deep inside me that knew I wasn't doing anything and I should be, and. So I think this is just like a natural. This is what should be my natural state of just chipping away at different stuff.
Yeah, right.
Don't want to be put in a box, man. Do you know what I mean? I'm like free spirit, and I just
I like that.
When the muse hits, I like to write.
I think 500 words is quite a nice thing because it's basically a page, isn't it?
Yeah,
like roughly.
Yeah.
So it's good as you're writing, you think, I'm getting near the bottom here, better wrap this up.
500 words is something that you can write in an emergency quite quickly and do something decent.
Yeah.
2,000 words, that's a
bit of thought in that.
Yeah, that's a full day's work to get something
couple of sittings, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's the difference between like doing a little ditty for this podcast and actually writing a song
with multiple verses and choruses and
proper middle eight and actually that's incredibly hard, I think, to really create But you can do it, Tom. You'll
Yeah,
do it.
just whatever. Just nice to be on the writing wagon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you know, I feel like I want to enter a competition now, just to have something to write.
I think that's where I found it quite good. Is obviously I'm not in a position to start another project because I'm trying to finish Chad Nadworthy. We've got Poker Night on the go, and then I do want to do this novel idea out the other side of that. So there's not room for something else to be started.
Yeah.
But writing 500 words, 2,000 words.
Keep your hand in.
Yeah, it's.
So what you're saying is,
moving.
Tom, this is your way of procrastinating.
In a way, yeah, but I mean, it's quite a wholesome way of procrastinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Productive.
It's a productive
procrastination.
Productive
Yeah.
procrastination.
I like that.
Must trademark
That'll
that.
be the title of my genuine
Yeah.
self-help book. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good for you, Tom. Well done.
Yeah,
Cool,
very
yeah.
good, very exciting.
It's not exciting, John, but yes. Thank
Well,
you.
I'm excited. I'm excited to read it, and it's more content for the podcast, and that's exciting.
True.
Well, I mean, we couldn't really have much more content. The time again. Well, let me start that sentence again. We couldn't really. We couldn't really have much more content for the podcast. All my time is taken up at the minute trying to get through these thousands, if not millions, of entries that we've had for our second
Yeah.
annual Failing Writers Writing
And there are
Competition.
so
There's just
many.
so much.
But the thing is,
of
as
it.
well, I keep having to have, like, I do it in little batches, so you don't feel like you're being unfair to
Yeah.
people. That, do you know what I mean? If you were to, like, read 20 or 30 in a row, then poor number 28, 29 and 30, just like, oh,
Yeah.
I
Chance.
can't be, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 word.
I don't want anyone.
So, trying to be
I
fair
don't
to
want to
them.
make anyone who has entered feel bad, but trying to get through them
Yeah.
all proper gave me a migraine last night.
Oh, mate.
Just so I hope nobody don't take that personally. It wasn't any one particular story, but you collectively have given me a right headache.
How's
Oh.
your shortlists coming on? Are there any that have stuck out?
There are a few. It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes you can get sort of just a few. I think you said this before, Tom. You get just a few lines in, and you go, "Oh, this is a good one."
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you know,
Yeah.
there's just something about the way that it's written that makes you go, "Oh, this is gonna be good." I didn't even know what it's about yet, but there's an X factor
Yeah.
to it, isn't there?
That's one of the things that Tim Craig talked about, wasn't it? Is that there are certain stories where you feel like you're in safe hands straight away.
Yeah,
That's what he said about Craig Margolis's winning entry, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
And that's
Yeah.
really true, isn't it? You sort of relax into it. It's like watching a good stand-up comedian. You know, there's that first bit when they walk on stage,
yeah.
and there's a little bit of nerves because you're like, I want them to be good.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be
Yeah, yeah.
crap. And then as soon as you're off the
Yeah.
mark, it's that's
But
good.
we are pouring through them all, and we've been picking out the odd one here and there. But I think it's about now that we should reveal that actually the final decision on the winner is too big a decision to be left in the hands of idiots like us.
Yeah. As many decisions are, to be fair. There's
Yeah.
quite a long list of decisions that we shouldn't be allowed to make. And this is one of them.
Most decisions shouldn't be left to us. So we have subcontracted out the final decision to a special guest judge.
Someone we've spoken to before, and we just thought it would be a bit of a good way of looking at it, because when we set up the competition saying it was love stories, we made it very clear that they can be, but they don't have to be soppy romance love stories. They can have a little bit of a twist or come in a different angle, or be a horror story that's got some love in or whatever. And the person we've chosen to judge is actually more famous for writing about breakups.
Yeah. So
which,
I think that's quite a failing writer's thing, isn't it? To get a
Yeah.
breakup expert to judge our romance
Maybe it is,
love
yeah.
stories. Yeah.
So who is it, Dave? Tell us.
It's Rosie Wilby.
Rosie Wilby, yeah. So who wrote
Yeah.
the breakup monologues?
Friend of the podcast.
If you've not heard last season, she was a fantastic guest last
Yeah.
season, actually. Really
So
good.
she's very kindly and graciously accepted to take our little sort of we're going to do some pre-judging, aren't we? We're going to make like a little short
We're
list.
a
pre-whittling.
long short list.
Yeah, a long short list or a short long list, whichever way it turns out. We'll give that to her, and then she will be in charge of making the final decision. So we thought, as that decision's out of our hands, why don't we today just talk a little bit about some of the stories that have stood out to us so far?
That is a good idea. It seems
That is a good idea.
it seems absurd not to feature some of these on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not to say these won't go through to the long list or short list or whatever. This is literally us on the hoof as we're halfway through them. So there'll be some we've not even read yet.
This is kind of our long list, isn't it? In fairness, yeah.
This
So we
it's almost to prove that we
a
have read some, really, isn't it? It's to show that we're not. It's like showing our work.
Yeah, show your work in
way, isn't it?
yeah. So let's have a short story special.
You've got less words than you thought. Sometimes it's better to come up short. So grind it all down with your literary pestle and gather round for our short story special. We'll be the vessel in which your stories can nestle. And learn the lesson, it's better when less letters let you impress us.
I think that could have been a number one hit, John. You were talking about.
Yeah,
it's
you said it was hard writing number one
Yeah.
hits, like full songs, but I think
I haven't listened to the hit parade for a while, but
whack a couple of choruses on that. And,
yeah. So
yes. So shall we now here live on the podcast? Shall we expose a selection of top quality stories to the world at large?
I think we should.
In a sense, you know what we're doing? We're going to flash some fiction.
oh yes,
That's what we're gonna do.
Oh,
let's,
Yeah.
there's an idea for a song as well.
Let's go straight into another
and
ditty.
here's another song.
Better dash it off quick, son. Got to flash your fiction. Flash it. Make a splash with your addiction.
Jesus Christ, no more ditties.
Yeah.
All right.
Huh?
I'm sorry.
No more ditties.
Actually, that's just giving me another idea.
No more ditties. No more ditties. Please, please, please. No more ditties.
Right, pack it in now. We've got a podcast to actually. We're doing a podcast, not a blooming busking session.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, yes. I need to stop doing that. Actually, having said that, that does give me an idea for another ditty.
Oh no. Tell you what. Why don't you tell everyone why I was taking the mick out of you early this week?
Oh yeah, Tom made fun of me because he said that my long list is too long. But I think I've made it longer because
Oh come on, John!
Jesus.
I've got a bunch of people.
You are going to have to
that
make
I
some
think-
decisions, though.
Yeah, but I think they deserve a mention. Right?
I would completely
And-
agree with that. I was taking the mick out of you for having a long short list, but if I'm honest, mine was about the same length, really.
Yeah, you
'Cause
did
it's-
have quite a long list as well.
It is really hard.
It is really hard, but that's a good thing. It's good.
Because they're different as well, because they're all so different. And it's like, well, what am I judging it on? And I think eventually you just have to be really subjective,
Yeah.
don't you? You have to, you're objective to start off with, and see whether it's well written or what do you mean? But you just go past that to, do I like it?
Yeah.
Quite like this one.
Do you find
Yeah.
it as well that
Yeah.
a lot of them are so good, you've kind of got to be a bit of an asshole about it? Like in the first sentence, there might just be like a spelling mistake or something, or a word left in that clearly they hadn't
Yeah.
deleted. And it's like,
Yeah, all the different. It is.
Sorry.
It does make you look at, like I was saying, entering these competitions and stuff. It does make you think, actually. Stuff like the title.
Yeah.
Like there's some that I've gone, oh well, it's good, but if you're going to pick between them, that title's a
title's
bit
better, yeah.
You've not really thought about the
Well,
title.
you've got
it's a bit
it's the
lazy.
fine margins. So, yeah, little things like an errant the, or a impersonal pronoun, or I don't know, whatever. But yeah, you've got to pick something to knock them out.
A gerund in the wrong place, I think. That's no one likes that.
No
do they?
one likes a misplaced gerund.
I wish I could remember what that was to agree.
It's just what I was thinking.
Right, so Dave,
Yes.
anything that stood out for you?
Do you know what? There was one that sort of caught my eye, and I think you've already mentioned him, Tom, because we've seen this guy before.
Ah, right.
Yes, Craig D. Margolis,
The reigning champion.
the reigning Failing Writers
Yeah.
Writing Competition champion, has entered again this year. Now, as we've said, these things being featured here, this makes no impact on whether they win, whether they lose.
I mean, yeah, but obviously we're not going to let him win again, are we? So,
well, no, that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it?
but you never know.
If he goes into that shortlist, it's not down to
Well,
us.
that's the truth, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's out of our control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the point we're trying to make here, isn't it? So, yeah, I'm going to read this story. that is called Painless by Craig D. Margolis. His attention skipped from the glaring lights to the medicine bottles, over to the walls pasted in sticker daffodils. Any place but the man in the white coat. I'm sorry there's not more we can do for her. Continued treatment's unlikely to prolong life. Better to ease her suffering and her passage. To where? Not there, with him, where she belonged. Someone had set a vial, syringe and gauze carefully on the counter, standing by. It's the best thing for her pain, but I'll leave you to think about it. Sure, he said. This was a place for leaving, after all. Her head lay in his lap, eyes half-lidded and unfocused. Stroking her hair, he ticked through his list of shouldn'ts. She shouldn't be sick. He shouldn't have to decide. They shouldn't be there at all. She stopped his spiral with a groan. It'll all be okay, he lied. It wasn't so long ago they strolled together, watching silly sanderlings dot in and out of the surf, bobbing for tiny crabs. Spontaneously, either would break into a run, forcing the other to follow, chasing their bird friends about the beach with boundless enthusiasm. The kids would join, that is, if they could be pulled from fortress making. He hadn't been much help building, she, positively unproductive, despite best intentions and unbridled joy. Now, the children were in college. Sandcastles of forgotten pastime. The boys had begged to come home. Still, he refused, hoping to spare them this worst of adulthood at least a while longer. Drops fell, gently showering her face, before he damned their source in sullen self-chastisement. Sorry, sweetie, he said, and wiped. You weren't supposed to go so soon. He wasn't a fool. He knew they wouldn't grow old together, that this day was inevitable, but the readiness was hardly all. Not even close. An unwelcome knock. Maybe he ought to have barred the door, closed the castle gates like those his sons built seaside to block the rushing tide. Have you decided? The noise woke her, though she barely stirred, the sole sign her fully open eyes. Concentric circles of white, brown and black. Those, at least, had remained when the rest had slipped away, blazing a trail to where he couldn't follow. You've been such a lovely girl, he whispered. Perfect, in fact. A needful fib. It wasn't the time to think on foibles. The white coat waited, unmoved, inured to such scenes. What do you want to do? Wanting had nothing to do with it, he thought, while nodding to proceed. He bent close, causing her ear to twitch. I love you. She nuzzled his face in reply, soft as a kiss. As was the rain which resumed against his will. The needle pierced her skin so deftly she seemed not to notice. The man knew his craft. The drive back, he cradled her, ignoring the calls and texts. He consoled himself instead with repetition. She was just a dog. Only a dog. Just a dog. Only a dog.
Oh,
I feel right sad now.
Yeah.
Can't help thinking that one is probably biographical. Do you know what I mean?
Craig is a dog.
You think it was written by a dead dog?
Oh, biographical, right? Yeah. No,
Oh, right,
not
yeah.
auto, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be some. Yeah.
Yes. There's a sort of there's definitely like a personal emotion in there, isn't it?
Why did you like it, Dave?
I don't know. There was
What
it was really it was really good.
I mean, that's what I was saying, isn't it? About the objective thing. It's true.
No,
It's so true. When you go, well, it's well written, it tells a story, and then past that, you kind of go,
It's just good.
I
Yeah.
just really
no,
liked
it was.
it. It just touched me. It just.
It wasn't overblown.
No, no.
No, I think it was a nice light touch. But do you know what I think was really nice about it? It wasn't trying to hide anything.
Exactly. It was.
Yeah.
It wasn't sort of over the top.
You could work out at any point in that it was a dog, and it's not ruined the end. If you haven't worked it out, you get that little pull around at the end. But at no point does it ruin it, because it's the slow, inevitable emotional journey of it, isn't it? It's inevitability that just goes all the way through that.
Yeah.
I think it is important sometimes not to try to be too clever.
Yes.
That's probably true,
Yeah.
isn't it? Especially when you're reading quite a lot of these short stories. I think some of the most clever ones aren't overly clever, if you know what I mean. They're just,
But they are underneath. They're underneath clever, though, aren't they, as well? That's when you get.
Well,
but
that.
that's
they're
the
not
thing,
trying to.
yeah,
they're
if
not
you
trying
try
to blow
to-
your mind. It's
Yeah.
going back to Tim Craig's fireworks thing, isn't it? Again, it's the you know.
But
You
that's the
don't-
thing. If you're trying to be clever, there's always a danger that you're not as clever as you think you are, and then you just come across as being not very.
Or
clever
your
at
reader's
all.
really stupid,
Yeah.
which is very possible in this
Yeah.
particular example.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. But it's also, it's a bit like really trying to be funny, isn't it? You know, it's it just comes across as a bit silly.
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
No, I just thought it was really nicely written, and I liked the sort of sparsity of dialogue in it as well. It was just a few.
But they all
sort
carried
of,
they all carried a lot of weight with them, didn't they? Every bit of dialogue was very valuable in it.
Yeah,
It was,
just enough, wasn't it?
Had a lot hanging on it.
Yeah.
And like, Tim Craig said as well last year about like sort of capturing just a really brief moment really well.
Mm.
So, yes, well done, Craig. There we go. That's my first offering to tonight's
Good
proceedings.
choice.
Yeah.
Very good choice.
Well, I think I should follow on from that because this one that I've picked, you saying about picking a sort of focusing on a tiny moment and kind of capturing something small and turning it into a thing.
Mm.
And one that I really just, I think, well, I'll read it and then explain afterwards maybe. So this is Disagree with Douglas Adams at Your Peril by Shanda Barles. Is it though? Is it what? Derek's response startled her. She hadn't intended to muse out loud and had sort of forgotten he was there. Stretched out on the daybed, doom scrolling on their phones, enjoying the last rays of the sun with their naked limbs still entwined. It was unclear to her where his body started and hers ended. And she realised in that moment just how easy he was to be with, how much she took him for granted, and how little he minded. Could it be true love? Just doing some philosophising over here. Listen to this quote from Douglas Adams. It is difficult to be sat on all day, every day by some other creature without forming an opinion about them. On the other hand, it is perfectly possible to sit all day, every day on top of another creature and not have the slightest thought about them whatsoever. So, I disagree. I don't think it's possible. She peered out from under her bangs at a man. Soft as a kiss, his smile took over his face slowly, as all his best smiles did. That's because you have an opinion about everything. So it's very short.
It is
You know
very
what I'm
short,
saying
yeah.
there? Less than 200 words. And I just thought, it's one of those that I had to read it twice, actually. First read, it didn't massively grab me, but you know when there's just something that makes you go back?
Mm.
Yeah.
What I thought it did really well was capture that almost indescribable thing, which is when you like with someone you love and it's all unspoken, and there's that kind of and just I think it just captured that so nicely as a one tiny little moment of them just sat or lying together, and something's just nonsensical. Do you mean not important discussion? Just that way when you're with someone that you're that close to, you can just share random nonsense without being fear of being judged.
Yeah.
And I quite like the way it was centered around that quote, that they used that as a building block for the story as well. I thought it was quite an interesting technique to it. But yeah, just love the way the writing behind it. Just kind of like I said, just took it's almost like it's taken a Polaroid picture of that moment.
Yeah, it gives you real insight into their relationship without, but by hardly saying anything about them at all, doesn't it?
Really low key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just really low key.
It felt inconsequential, but actually it said so much about their relationship and about their characters.
That's
as well.
exactly, I think. Yeah, it's completely inconsequential and just random musings that are so affirming in terms of their relationship.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that one, and the fact it was less than 200 words still.
Yeah.
There wasn't like, oh well, I've got loads more words I can put in a bit here and a bit there. It's like, no, it's done.
Yeah, it seems
So,
like a sort of snapshot of like a holiday where you had a really great time and someone says, so what did you do? And you go,
nothing really.
well, nothing.
Yeah,
I don't
just,
remember anything about it, really. It was just, it was really good.
So a very good story about nothing.
Yes.
But everything at the same time.
But yeah, isn't that love in a nutshell?
There's always one that's on top.
Yeah. Yeah, which and the Douglas Adams quote was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
in
So-
itself.
Let me get this right. She's disagreeing with the quote. She's saying that you are aware that you're on top.
Yeah,
Is that right? Have I got that right? Yeah.
yeah, I think
Because
so.
she's aware in her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
because she's,
Yeah.
as she said earlier on, whether she takes him for granted, and do you know what I mean, she's kind of,
Yeah.
she feels like she should tell him all the things, but they're not. They're just being, which is fine.
Mm. It's good.
Yeah. John, have you got one that links neatly into that in some way? Give us a Dave quality link segue from that to one of
Got
yours.
one that actually literally does have love in a nutshell.
Aerosmith's little known B-side.
Because that would be a perfect link.
I don't have one that moves, straight into another one, but I did want to mention a few, and I think now might be a good time just to barrel through a few that I liked. You've got a few that you liked as well, haven't you, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of crossover as
Yeah.
well. And
I'm going to move quickly because there is a lot. Okay, but I'll get to one. Quite quickly that I want to.
read. Have you just got a list
Yeah,
of all
every
of
single
the
one.
entries?
No,
Just
these
read
were
them
my-
all out.
These
Don't
were
wanna
my
leave anyone
nice
out.
Little, these guys deserve mentioning. First one, a very moving story from long-time listener Jeff Harrison
Oh, yeah.
about his
Yeah.
brother. Also, Christopher West,
Yeah.
the bearded quill, very sweet little tale. Johnny P.
Mm, yeah.
Made me laugh, naughty boy. Jennifer Last Jen, another of our favourite people, an outstanding bit of writing, I thought. A very beautifully illustrated story.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? When you can see everything, like pictures in your head. That was very good. Bonnie Meekums, good work. That reminded me a lot of your Spooky Warbook.
Yes,
Dave.
I thought that actually. Yeah, yeah.
There were two characters,
Did it
Violet and George, and they
Yeah.
could be Tom and Rose. I thought, yeah.
in a sort of copyright lawsuit kind of way, or I mean,
But yeah, that was very nice. Actually, there were quite a lot of stories about old
Yeah.
age.
there weren't there? Yeah.
So there was another one in that vein was called The Last Dance by Christina May. That was a nice idea, very well
Yeah.
executed. Another one by Richard Lakin, which features trees. You had me at trees, Richard. And Angela McKean submitted a
I
very
knew,
sensitively written tale, which might best be described as like a slow fade out, which I thought was really beautifully done, Angela. So I'm going to read that one.
Go on.
I'm going to read it right now. It's called Aphrodite and Annette. Aphrodite was still there, among the shrubs and climbers. The statue had aged, like Annette herself, become worn and pitted through exposure to the elements. It stood beyond the bay window, where Annette now spent most of her days seated, a shawl over her knees. Michael had bought the statue for her 45th birthday. She had no idea why, and still didn't know 31 years later. She'd often watched Michael run his hands over Aphrodite's naked curves, her curling hair. No matter how hot or cold the day, the statue always felt cool, he said, like lime wash in autumn. Michael's love of the statue had unnerved Annette. It made her feel she'd failed him. Perhaps he'd wanted her to follow its sensual lead, to go to him proudly naked, relishing her sexuality. Maybe he'd craved to find in her an echo of the goddess's power, something that would satisfy an erotic craving for subjugation. These unspeakable questions snagged in her mind and would not let her be. The statue felt like an intruder in her marriage, full of pain and confusion. Annette became increasingly distant and withdrawn. Now silent in her wheelchair, Annette watched the shadows lengthen. The conifers stood tall against the garden fence. A little dog scrabbled at a nearby patch of earth. As the sun's low rays caught Aphrodite's hair, Annette's mind turned to the last few years, when the world beyond the garden became a foreign land to Michael, a fear-filled wilderness in his fragmenting mind. The first year she wove the garden into tapestries of colour for him. He smiled as feathered grasses flickered in the summer light. He bent to touch the tiny flowers of heather and lobelia, lifted his head to see the winter sun transforming flax leaves into red and purple flames. Later, he could no longer watch the flowers and grasses. the overwhelming colour and movement of it all. Instead, he sat facing the calm, green wall of pines, staring at a single sunlit spot. That final evening was balmy with a gentle breeze. As darkness fell, Annette lit an old oil lamp and placed it on the ground beyond the tall-stemmed feather grasses. A backlit cameo set against the frame of night. She led him out, wrapped in his woolen shawl, drew his blank eyes towards the pool of light. The grasses swayed, soft as a kiss. She watched a trembling, uncertain smile dawn on her husband's face, and a huge wave of that old, misplaced love surged into her heart. Her face soft with memories, Annette gazed out at the garden. Aphrodite had faded into the shadows. It was nearly time to feed the dog. Her eyes closed. The hours ticked by, and stars pricked the clear night sky. She did not hear the scratch at the door as her little dog came in. She did not feel the pressure of his small muzzle against her hand, now cool, like lime wash in autumn. There you go. I think I like stories that leave you with lots of questions unanswered.
Yes.
I like being plonked into a world that I can visualize very clearly so that I can believe in it. But I want it to also kind of link neatly with the character's psyche. So that whole bit about the statue and the psychology of this lady defining herself through the idea of that statue, through someone else's expression of beauty. And I like that a lot. I like how she tries to... It's like throughout the whole thing she's trying to find peace by coordinating the viewpoint of her husband, who's got dementia, presumably.
Yeah.
I found it very moving. But it doesn't answer everything. It doesn't sort of... Do you know what I mean? It is like for me, it felt like a slow fade out.
Yeah.
It was like... I don't know, but it was sort of peaceful as well. It wasn't unhappy.
Yeah.
It was clearly not a particularly happy marriage, but the fade out was, I don't know. I really liked it.
And it's got a little dog at the end. And you like little dogs, don't you, John?
We like dogs, don't we?
But joking aside, I did think there was some lovely, gentle touches of language in there, wasn't there? Just really well, just such a light touch.
Yeah. Again, really well drawn out, I think. As in, not drawn out, as in
just it did go on, didn't it?
as in painted, as in like sketched.
Yeah, well, it had sort of a vibrant colour palette to it, didn't it?
Yeah,
exactly. And phrases like a backlit cameo set against the frame of night. It just is drawing stuff,
it's
isn't
lovely.
it?
Yeah, but it sounds nice as well.
Yeah.
It's got a lovely,
absolutely
poetic sound to it.
Good to see a good high standard throughout this competition.
Hey, wait a minute.
What?
I've got more.
What?
I've got some ones that made me smile. I'll keep moving quickly. Michelle Chamberlain wrote a great mini sci-fi.
Oh, yes.
Involving some very frustrating AI.
Yes, that was good, wasn't it?
Trying to understand human emotions at the worst possible moment. It was funny, it was tense, it was good. Do you remember that one, Tommy?
I do, yeah. I really like that one.
I haven't got to that one yet.
Also, the Kevins. Well done, Kevins. Kevin McCormick's Leathery Kiss.
Yeah.
And Kevin Owen's delightfully weird Could It Be Magic story. Do you remember that one? About the dream premonitions that come true because Mr. and Mrs. Cupid are puppet mastering the whole thing.
Yeah.
That was good. It was funny.
Yeah.
But it was totally different to everything else that came in.
I would struggle to pick my favourite Kevin, to be honest.
The brilliant Kevins.
Difficult question, isn't it?
Some good Kevins. Very high Kevin standard this time out.
Pab Roberts.
Oh, yes.
I really enjoed that.
Yeah.
That was like it was a teenage thing, wasn't it? It was like little victories.
It had like echoes of sort of, I don't know, like 1980, like Breakfast Club, that kind of.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
definitely threw me back.
Yeah.
Nostalgic.
Yeah. Really good, that one.
And while we're on stories of love,
we are. I mean, you're right. A lot of them have been about love, haven't they? You're right, actually, now you mention it.
Yeah.
And while we're on stories of love in the throes of youth. That doesn't sound right, but yeah, you know what I mean. Stephanie Nolan.
Yeah. That was another one, wasn't it, that takes a very short space of time
Yeah.
and nothing really happening and just puts so much meaning into it.
It was really good. It was, they were the rebellious teenage outcasts, weren't they?
right in what must have, in the real world, would have been a short bus ride and some minor vandalism into a much deeper story.
Really
great
good
stuff. Great stuff.
Similar was Gunshot by Victoria Gamel, but it had a much darker twist to it. And the other sort of young love one, Machadiso Radaby, hopefully pronounced that roughly right, their story of queer platonic love. That felt very real. It was quite moving. It was sort of told in this very casual style.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Despite that, very moving. It was, obviously about a platonic relationship. Well, sort of platonic relationship. But I like that as well. I thought that was great.
I'm just intrigued, but there must be, after that long list, there must be like 3 people left who've entered that John hasn't mentioned. Oh, bloody hell.
Hundreds.
Right. Fine.
I've got more. Because I was thinking one that I really wanted to put through. I haven't decided yet whether they're going through to my shortlist.
Well, this is going to be cool,
I know
isn't
it
it?
is.
Yeah. Oh,
I know it is, but
John, you can't do
it's
that.
Can I not? Shall I
No,
pretend
oh,
that?
that's just...
Oh no, I've got to say it now, haven't I? Well, I don't know whether to or not,
You're
but
on tenterhooks
it was
now.
really good. Anna Gad's story was quite unusual in that it was properly like a story of true love, in that it was sort of giving the idea, sort of getting over the idea that true love might actually mean sacrificing your happiness for someone else's. And that was a real heartbreaker, I thought. That really got me. I thought that was incredibly, I don't know, it felt very, what's the word?
Good.
Good.
There's that word again.
Let's use your word, Dave, and let's call it very good.
Very, very good.
It was excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Reem Hamraz from India, another heartbreaking tale about the Indian partition separating lovers. That was quite moving.
I tell you what, as you say that, John, as you go through this ever-increasing list of entrants, it has been quite striking, the international flavour of the entries we've had.
Yeah, that's very true, isn't it?
We've had, I mean, just because I haven't read anywhere near as many as you have, but even in the few that I have got through so far, we've been to America, we've been to Canada, Iran, Kenya,
China,
New
Zealand,
India,
Scotland.
Oof.
I mean, everywhere we've been. Yeah.
Yeah, exotic places.
Really, really just, So I was just amazing that people are listening to us in such far-flung places.
I know, thanks. Thanks, guys.
300 quid really pulls them in from all over the world, eh?
It does. Tommy, what did you think of, I'm not asking you, Dave, because I'm guessing you might not have read it, but if you have, join in. Ryan Watch's fairy tale about heartstrings. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
It stood out a little bit because it was unusual. No one else had gone fairy tale. Tommy, any other little standy outies that caught your eye?
Do you know one of the other ones that really leapt out? You know what we were saying about ones that just leapt out was by Kate Durant from Ireland, and it just probably as a parent, it just really tugged on some heartstrings.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll read it out. We'll read it and see. It's called Investment Advice. Feed them, as that famous quote doesn't say but should, and they will come. I get there first for one of my irregular lunch dates with my son, and I wait. Parenting books don't have a chapter on waiting. They should. You wait to get pregnant, you wait to give birth, and spend a lot of time waiting for them to go to sleep, only to wait for them to wake up again. You wait outside school gates, on sidelines, by swimming pools, and sometimes beside scary-looking hospital beds, holding impossibly small bodies. As the years pass, you wait for that key in the door when they've missed the last bus. And we won't even go into the unquantifiable amount of time that you wait for them to answer their phones. But it's always worth it. I sense him before I see him coming around the corner, all blonde hair and legs, 6'5" of perfection. Well, to me anyway. Catching sight of me, he makes a stride in my direction, realising, as he does, that he has forgotten his belt, and I laugh as he pulls his jeans up. thinking of those innocent days when a small boy running out of the school gate to his waiting mum would notice that he had forgotten his belt and would stop to pull his pants up too. His smile lights up his face as he bounces over, bridging those waiting minutes in 3 long strides. "Hi, Mum," he grins as he drops a breath as soft as a kiss on the top of my head, and I grin back, no words needed. We grab a coffee and some lunch. When did he become old enough to drink coffee? And have a half-hearted fight over who is paying. I love that he offers, but I'm not ready to reverse the roles yet. He tucks into pancakes. "Remember the pancake house at Centre Parks, Mum?" he asks as the golden syrup drips down his chin, and I wave at a friend passing, willing her to keep walking and not dilute this precious time as my son and I chat with that wonderful shorthand that exists between people who were once one. I tell him about the dogs and how my begonia's been eaten alive by the slugs this year. And he tells me about a game of foot golf with the lads and cryptocurrency, although really, I'm only looking at him and hearing his voice, not his words. "You can show phenomenal growth if you invest wisely," he says, scrolling through his phone excitedly, showing me charts and graphs. You smile and you look at the phenomenal growth of your 28-year-old investment, thinking of the love you have speculated over the years, and how it has repaid you so handsomely. And you reach out to touch his hand and say, "I know, son. I know."
Nice.
So I just thought that was a whole bundle of that parental pride.
Yeah. It sort of oozes love, doesn't it? Without being about anything whatsoever. But it's dripping out.
I think as well as it just being it was really well observed, wasn't it? I think the first bit that got me, that kind of, when you, like we were saying, you read it, was the about the waiting. That's such a nice observation, that your entire parental career is different kinds of waiting.
Yeah.
And it changes as they get older, but you still, that's your, and again, it's that investment thing. You're still
bloody
waiting. It's all putting in.
Yeah.
It made me so angry thinking about that.
and then hopefully the point is, at the end, there's a point where it's all suddenly completely worth it.
Yeah. Maybe that's why time seems to be going so quickly these days. It's because almost all of it is spent waiting.
Yeah.
For children. Yeah.
There is some truth to that, isn't there?
No, that was
Just out of interest, how old did you think he was before we're told?
I was thinking like older teenager kind of age to begin with.
Yeah. Because he dribbles, he forgets his belt, his trousers fall down.
Yeah, but well,
I think you forget what you were like at 28 years old, John.
That's a fair point.
About a pound for every time you were walking around dribbling with your pants round your ankles.
Yeah. Okay, you did. Yeah, and you did know me when I was 28, so
yeah.
Okay.
Lovely observation. Very warm, just warmth.
Yeah,
warmth.
very nice.
No clever twists or turns or we were talking about a rabbit actually, or what? Do any of that stuff?
Yeah,
it was.
It's funny, isn't it? It's funny though, because you become conditioned to it. Because right at the end there, I was waiting for her to reach out to grab his hand, and he wasn't there. Because he's dead.
Yeah.
And she's imagined it all.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I was waiting for a little twist, which it totally didn't need.
Yeah.
There was another parenty one. I don't know if you remember it. Which talking about clever ones before. This was very clever. It was a sort of like a circular one. Can you remember? You remember that one, Tommy? Philippa Howell.
Oh yeah.
Is that ringing a bell?
That was on my list.
Very good.
Yeah.
Like
Destination Known, wasn't it? That was it.
Yeah, that's it. It was sort of the causation, the circular causation of life.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
It was a bit sadder, that one, wasn't it, as well?
It was definitely a lot sadder, to be fair. This one was very pleasant. I'm gonna read you another one. Do you want to hear another one?
Go on then.
This one's by Tanuka Ilanko, and I thought it was beautifully well told story. See what you think. It is called Where Are You Going? Falling in love was so sweet. Those marvellous early weeks, Geeta's pulse constantly thumped in her stomach. She woke over and over to chirping summer crickets to see if he'd messaged, never minding that her eyes were red and she yawned through work. Every bright thing shone brighter. Blank-faced strangers on the street, startled, returned the smile that never left her. If the two of them had been here then, she could have shared the sunny skies, the silken ocean, the undulation of coastal cliffs with him. They'd have risen before the sun, held hands leaving the hostel. No, together they would have stayed in a B&B and strolled through the farmer's market, choosing a fresh sourdough loaf and rich cherry tomatoes for lunch. They'd have left early. When they were together, they wouldn't want to rush. Stops for swimming, wave-splashed embraces under rock arches, pulling one another uphill to a windswept meadow to tear off pieces of bread and rub tomatoes on sweaty T-shirts as if to make them cleaner before feeding them to one another. Geeta has barely slept. The market was over when she left. She's running to make up time. Despite the exertion, she feels hollow, as if she sent him her insides, atom by atom, and nothing has come back to fill her in exchange, not even breakfast. How can she eat when he hasn't come? In a long-ago chemistry class, there was a marshmallow inside a glass desiccator with a vacuum pump, sucking out air until it expanded into a giant, pink, exuberant mass. Then something gave way. It shrank back. When the chamber was opened, it gave a leap and shriveled into a withered thing that had lost all structure. She doesn't remember what she was supposed to learn, only that horrid deflation. Loving was easy. Excision is not. In his presence, she'd vacuumed out whatever she was before him, and now, afterwards, she's left to reconstruct herself, to recall those atoms and bind them with seaside air and screeching gulls. She scuffs her muddy trainers in loose stones, making them grind together. Imagines walking on the crumbling jetty, posing together for photos, the weight of his arms, not the ache of rucksack straps. In echo, the wind rises, the light dims, another squall. Refuge in a cafe alone is indulgence. An incongruously red phone booth catches her eye. There's nothing inside, not even loose wires. She's rummaging for waterproofs and rucksack cover when she hears brrr, brrr, and drops her jacket before realising it's from her pocket. Hey. She puts him on speaker, thinking to keep digging through her pack, then leans against the wall instead. It's cold, firm. His voice is as soft as a kiss. Geeta, I'm sorry, and I'm on the train. Reception's patchy. Can I meet you tonight? Where are you? Where are you going? Raindrops chatter on glass. She looks at her map case, clenches numbing fingers, runs a thumb over the ring. I'm not sure, but I'll let you know. Thoughts, gentlemen, thoughts?
It's a didn't she, isn't it?
Mm.
Again, appealing to the John Rands of this world with its unfinished business.
Yeah, get in, get out. Don't tell me everything.
Do you think Tanuka is a chemistry student or chemistry teacher?
I don't know.
Because there were some lovely the metaphors. One that absolutely jumped out of there was the one about the one atom at a time.
Yeah.
Just I thought that was lovely imagery.
Yeah,
there.
it was.
Really was. As if she'd sent him her insides, atom by atom, and nothing has come back to fill her in exchange. Just the pain of like atom by like bit by bit by bit.
Yeah.
But then the absolute emptiness of it that created. I thought that was lovely. Really good.
Yeah. I thought, that, and the marshmallow metaphor, it was like a brilliant encapsulation of how it feels when you're like hollowed out by a relationship ending or whatever.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not. Exactly. Again, that one felt quite real to me. I mean, I've no idea if it was or not.
Quite. Do you think it was quite filmic, quite cinematic in its world build and its delivery?
I think if you can make something feel as though it's a true story, you know, by rounding out the details and just like fully immerses into a time and place, you're onto a winner. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, really
good.
That.
It was like that.
I felt there was something almost sort of manga, like anime-esque about it. When I particularly the description of the marshmallow bit, like you talk about it being quite filmic. I saw that animated in a. Oh Christ! Just headbutted the microphone. I really got into that then.
Yes, go on.
Oh
go on,
God!
Dave.
I was really
looking off that one.
But no, it looked. I could see
Yeah,
that
it's the same
working
thing, that kind-
in
yeah.
a sort of anime. You know, like the expanding and contracting
Yeah.
marshmallow.
Like her memories would be animated in that style.
Yeah.
That would
And
work.
then
I like
and the
that.
Yeah,
rain and
yeah.
everything. It was really atmospheric.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
Yeah,
kinda,
very
Yeah.
visual. I like
Yeah.
visual things. Yeah.
Yeah, if only you could take a story and turn it into like a series of visual images.
Somehow
yeah,
make it into pictures.
so you wouldn't have to read it. Maybe one day.
But no, it's really good. That really good.
I thought so.
Really good.
I've got a serious question, and I want you to
Well,
give me a
save
very...
it till after the podcast, John. Because
There's no place for that here.
No.
I want you to give me a
Ask
very...
it quickly then, but don't give people a chance to turn off. Go on.
Okay. I want you to give me a very honest answer here.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you think are 500-word love stories held up next to these? As in, like the ones that we did back in episode 17 with Janice.
You mean would I have picked ours above any of these?
Yeah. Did you find reading these a little bit intimidating, or were you like, yeah, these are good, but ours were better?
Yeah, well,
Like, how do you think we would have fared in the competition? That's probably a better way of asking it.
I don't know.
If it wasn't us judging, obviously.
Yeah, if it was somebody
I
else
don't know.
judging.
It's an interesting question. I would hope mine would do. I think I landed quite lucky on that one. When we wrote that, I was quite happy with mine in the end. But I can't see it standing head and shoulders above anything on here. Do you mean like in terms of being?
I really liked mine, but Janice completely missed the point of it. So I wonder now if anyone else.
Well, that's the trouble,
have-
isn't it? If you enter in a
Yeah.
competition and someone reads it and thinks, I don't really get that.
Mm.
Well, it's funny. It's interesting though, isn't it? Because like you said, Tom, with a few of them, you read it first time and it didn't quite land, and you read it again and you see it totally different.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that's not always going to happen, is it? That someone's
No,
going to
no,
take
no.
the time
Sometimes
to
you think,
reread it.
"Oh, I just don't get that.
Yeah, move on.
Yeah.
Luck of the draw. Luck of the draw.
Mm.
Well, that's interesting because that's quite a good link because the next one that I was going to read out to you is one that I still am not entirely sure that I understand it.
What the hell's going on?
Yeah, but there's just something about it that I like.
Which one is it, David?
It is One Elephant by Danielle Callis.
Oh, I don't know what's happening in that either.
Oh, yeah.
But I like that one.
I think I got confused
Yeah.
by that.
But not in a. This is badly written. I
Mm.
don't understand what's. As in a. Oh, I need to work more of this out. I need to join some
Yeah.
dots.
I think I put that
And
on
then-
my reread pile, and I haven't.
Yeah.
done
Well,
it
I'll
yet.
reread it for you right now, John.
Perfect.
Save you
Do
the
that.
trouble
Make sense of it
rereading
for us.
I'm not promising that,
Yeah.
but I will read it. So this is One Elephant by Danielle Callis. A flash of light illuminated the sky outside, casting shadows across the walls of the home. 1 elephant, 2 elephant, 3 elephant. Before Amelia could count to 4, she heard the rumble, like waves rolling across rocks before colliding with the shore in an almighty crash. It was getting closer this time. She picked up a shard of glass at her feet, pricking her finger on its sharp edge. A crimson-red teardrop swelled at the tip, rolling down her skin and staining the carpet. She sucked the end of it, wincing at the copper taste on her tongue. Blood. The very thing keeping her alive, and suddenly she couldn't waste a drop. She could hear the sound of her heartbeat swelling in her ears, pulsing through her veins and rushing through her arteries. "What are you thinking about?" she heard her husband ask, startling her. "Nothing," she said, smearing the bloodstain on the floor with the heel of her foot. "What are you doing awake?" "I'm not tired," he said, the bags under his eyes telling a different story. He stepped over the broken photo frame, the picture of the two of them staring up at him, and reached instead for the bottle of whiskey that sat on the top shelf of the cabinet. He sunk into the couch, absorbed for a moment by the flicker of the television. "Have we got anything in for dinner tomorrow?" he finally asked. She shook her head, to which he replied with a slow nod. He handed her the bottle, and she took a swig, savouring the taste of it in her mouth. She'd bought it as a gift for their first wedding anniversary. They weren't supposed to open it until next month. Another flash of light slid through the gaps in the curtain. 1 elephant, 2 elephant. This time the rumble shook the ground, the lights flickering for a moment. "It's now or never," he said. "I'll go," she said, slipping her wedding ring from her finger. She placed it into her husband's hand, his skin stretched thin across his bones. His dressing gown hung from his shoulders, his cheeks sunken and his brows furrowed with concern as he stared back at her. "We'll go together," he said, pulling himself to his feet. The air was thick with smoke outside, and there was a hazy orange glow in the distance. Most of the houses were boarded up now, albeit for a few that were like them that had chosen to stay. Now there wasn't anywhere left for them to go. They hadn't even made it to the end of the road before they saw the light headed towards them. Her husband pulled her into his chest, his touch as soft as a kiss. "We go together," he said. She could hear the sound of his heartbeat against her ear, pulsing through his veins and rushing through his arteries. She held on tighter, suddenly aware that she couldn't waste a second. One elephant.
Yeah, you read that well, man.
What I quite like about that is that it's got like a hint of a, almost like a, what's it called? Oh God, Dusk Till Dawn sort of thing. There's a sudden sort of shift.
Yeah,
in
genre
it.
shift halfway sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then you suddenly like, what? Hey, what? What's going on here? And it's not resolved in any sense. So yeah, like the things that you've read, John, it leaves a lot of questions, but just it's done in a slightly different way.
I've got some questions. This might sound stupid, but why were there so many elephants outside her house? And what did they want? You know what?
They just want counting.
Yeah.
That's all elephants want. Yeah, they're often attracted by thunderstorms to the noises.
God,
They didn't have
And then
any sheep.
people will count them.
No, do you think are you thinking Ukraine? Sort of the war in Ukraine, was that where you went?
Apocalypse, kind of, yeah.
I was thinking much more apocalyptic.
Well, I was to begin with, and then
they've been stuck in the house for a long time. They're very skinny and thin. They've got no food.
Yeah.
They're down to the last stuff. It's all kind of a bit Mad Max. And then this is the final one, and it's so close. There's only time for one elephant.
I feel like the ground has been shaking. You know, the war is getting closer.
That's it. It's all getting close to them. Do you know what I thought was wonderful in this as well? That entire first paragraph takes up like probably a fifth of the entire words in the thing, and then it's just dealt with as something that has just happened in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about? Nothing. It's almost like it's not even worth talking about anymore. Do you know, it's just kind of once you realise it's in this kind of apocalyptic, maybe war-torn thing, it's just too much effort to even explain. It's just we're just existing. We're just kind of scraping through it.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
not important.
It reminds me a little bit of that thing that Spielberg does very well, which is sort of home in on a very sort of small, little detail, like the water, the glass of water in Jurassic Park.
I was going to say, yeah.
And then you're slowly kind of pulling out and seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I thought it worked very well.
Yeah. But it's like that, like you said, that the sort of second part of it where they talk to each other is a really sort of it's just a natural, homely thing, isn't it? That what you're thinking, nothing, I'm tired, got anything for dinner tomorrow. It's just such a normal, everyday conversation.
It smacks of them being very used to whatever's going on.
And then, but there's, it's a normal conversation in what seems to be a completely abnormal situation with the elephants hunting them down. The elephants have organised themselves.
Terror.
Yeah.
The war elephants, yeah.
No, it was very good. Who was that again?
Danielle Callis.
Danny Elephant Callis.
Nice.
I assume relatively happy having just been compared to Spielberg.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, you're going to be, aren't you?
Not bad.
You're welcome.
So, like we said right at the start, a lot of good stories this year.
From what we've read out tonight doesn't affect, this is just us feeling like we weren't intending on doing this. It wasn't in the plan, but it felt remiss of us to let things go past without. We kind of just felt we had to share it with you, really.
Yeah.
And while the judging's ongoing, and hopefully we'll get to share more with you as we announce winners and stuff as well. But just a really diverse and different set of stories, really. Just quite overwhelming in some respects.
Well, there's a lot of talented people out there, and most of them listen to our podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it attracts them, doesn't it? Like flies around shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just something about talented people and us.
Just literally everyone that's listening now has just gone, yeah, opposites attract. They're doing our jokes for us now.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks very much, listener. Yeah, opposites do attract.
So, but how many more weeks until the actual winner is announced, though?
That's on next week's show.
Is that on next week's show?
It's on next week's show, Dave.
What?
You don't need to wait much longer.
Yeah.
Seriously, though, when do we have to give our shortlist?
You need to get reading the rest of them, Dave. We all do. We need to finish. We need to finish reading them.
When do we have to get it to Rosie?
You got 2 days, I think.
2 days?
We've got 2 days to finish reading.
I've got to read 500 stories a day.
You crack on, mate.
Just do what I do, mate. Don't actually read the stories. Just look at the titles. If you like the titles, read it. If you don't, just delete it. That's what I've been doing. Have you been reading them all?
I think that's what Dave's doing.
That's why I've been going wrong, isn't it? I've actually been reading all the words.
Hey, we should also mention, if we haven't mentioned you, don't worry. It's not because your story wasn't great. It's just we can't read them all out, can we? We can't name everyone.
John did his best to get through every single person.
Don't give up. Don't stop writing just because we haven't mentioned you. Keep banging out the words. There were genuine lots of good stories. So.
Yeah, and tune in next week to see whether you're a winner.
Exactly.
That could have been, may have been one that's mentioned, may have been one that hasn't been mentioned.
Might be one that's not been mentioned. It might be one that we haven't even got to in the reading pile yet.
And also, obviously, next week as well, I guess, are we doing a list of rubbish ones as well? Then we're going to read a couple of those out and mock them, or
humiliate some people. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
So do tune in for that next week.
It's like the yin and the yang.
I mean, that's why people listen to this show. So.
Yeah. I mean, people will be pleased just to be featured, won't they?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
They've sent a story in, they get it read out. I mean, that's nice, isn't it?
If we really go to town as well, really pull everything apart.
Yeah. That'd be great.
That's what we're all about.
It's just good content.
Yeah.
So what's left but to thank everyone who entered the competition.
Yeah.
Do you know who else we need to thank? Is the wonderful Scrivener app.
Oh, yeah.
And the people there for supporting us.
Absolutely.
And
great
we
stuff.
should reiterate, if you don't own a copy of Scrivener, then do yourself a favour.
Why not?
Yeah, because writing a book is really hard. So why would you want to make it any harder? Do you know what I mean?
Do the opposite of making it harder, surely.
That would make more sense.
Make it easier on yourself.
Especially when you can get 20% off a copy of Scrivener right now by using the code FAILING.
That is not to be sniffed at. 20%.
Yeah, at literatureandlatte.com.
Yeah, and you can sign up for a free trial, I think, can't you, as well? Which will tide you over until next week to see whether you're one of the runners-up that may have won a copy of Scrivener. So,
yeah.
Prizes galore next week. Prizes galore.
Everyone's a winner.
No, don't say that.
That's not a winner.
It's not our competition.
That's literally the opposite of a competition.
Nobody's a loser. Can we say that?
I mean, look, everybody's written a story. And as we know, it's no words are wasted. So you're absolutely right, Dave. I think we can say that.
Wins.
And do you know what? There will have been a lot of people, and some of you will be listening now. Yes, you, talking to you, that were intending to write a story and never got round to it. Which is obviously behaviour we can't condone. I mean, that's terrible. Terrible stuff. So even just by entering, that's a big step in the right direction, isn't it?
You're a winner in our eyes.
And do you know what was lovely? The number of people on the emails that had said, really love the podcast. You've inspired me to start writing again, or to.
That's true.
I've never really written anything before, but I thought, I'll give it a go. Or, do you mean listen to the podcast? It's blah blah blah, and I've just thought, do you know what? I'll have a go at writing. And there was quite a few of them, and it was really quite heartwarming, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was. It really was
a lovely thing to
really
hear.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Oh, group hug!
Handsy. But until then, let's carry on with the reading and the judging.
Yeah. See you next week for the winners parade.
Until then.
Well, let's go. Cheerio, everyone.
Farewell, fellas.
See ya.
Hello.
Where's everybody gone?